We are live. Welcome to BAM Fight Club. I'm Colby. This is Fern. We are previewing UFC 283 Teixeira vs. Hill. Taking place today. Early prelims starting at 2:30 p.m. Prelims at 5. Main card at 7. Lots of fights tonight. This is taking place in Brazil. And yeah, to kick us off, let's just go ahead and get into the first fight of Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker. I thought this was an interesting matchup. I was trying to think, how is this fight going to play out? Paul Craig, he's coming off of a loss in his most recent fight. Johnny Walker coming off of a win. But both of these guys, have had some kind of rough records in terms of win-loss, although I'd say Paul Craig's been winning more often than not lately, whereas Johnny Walker's been more racking up more losses. Out of Johnny Walker's last 6 fights, he's lost 4. He looked really hot when he came into the UFC after winning by decision in Dana White's Contender Series. He had 3 first-round wins for his first 3 fights in the UFC, and then, like I said, the last 4 out of 6 he's lost. So, Paul Craig being the grappler, submission artist, we saw him, I think it was the time before his last fight where he threw up that, crazy...
The Hail Mary.
The triangle, yeah, he's getting his face pounded in and then, ends up sneaking in that submission super fast. Looked amazing. He looks like he's, I think he looked okay in his last fight. I feel like his last several fights, like his mentality, he's just been like gone beast mode or something. Whereas with Johnny Walker, he's got knocked out a few times. He got a submission in his last fight, but the fight before that he did end up get knocked out in the first round against Jamahal. So I think this is going to be interesting. I feel like this is something that's going to get decided in the first round. I feel like either Johnny Walker is going to get the KO or Paul Craig is going to get the submission. But both of these guys have a habit of, whether they win or lose, they are winning or losing in the first round, I feel like. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think both of the guys have had great showings their last fights. We were there live to watch Johnny Walker against, wasn't it? What was his name?
Kudalaba was his last fight.
Yeah. We were there for Nate Diaz's last fight. Amazing. It was a great fight watching it. Definitely a fight that we thought he was going to lose up until that point where he ended up, would he win by submission, right?
Yeah.
And Paul Craig, last fight, he was just, I felt he was like so close to being finished and somehow pulled it out. Like, he definitely has the stamina. I think Walker, we know he fades quick. I'm excited about this one. It's going to be a great fight to start off the night for sure. Definitely, I'm gonna say, I will put my DraftKings bet on Paul Craig on this one. Johnny Walker's definitely been putting in work. Always switching training camps, always stepping up his game, but he just is still a little too careless, a little unrefined, and he's definitely a strong, powerful guy. But I think Paul Craig just has the poise, the composure to see it through.
Yeah, and Caitlin in the chat says got to go with the Scotsman, so she's rooting for Paul Craig. and yeah, I agree with you about Johnny Walker, which the unrefined part. I feel like after I can't remember if it was his first loss in the UFC or after the second one. I feel like he really tried to change his approach, where it seemed like he tried to be more measured. But some guys with their body makeup, their style, whatever. Some guys just aren't great at being the cautious technical fighter. Like you said, Johnny Walker's got a lot of power, but I haven't seen, I feel like, a ton of improvement necessarily, even though I feel he's tried to hold back a little bit and be a little bit more reserved instead of rushing in, because he ended up with those 2 losses. But even after he took that more cautious approach, that didn't necessarily mean he was more technical, and it definitely didn't improve his chin any. And I feel like we've seen with him in quite a few matches where he's been touched up a bit, and his chin doesn't seem to hold up very well. So I am predicting underdog win, Paul Craig on this one. I think he's going to pull it out. Paul Craig, he's tough. He has good skill and technique. I think his biggest obstacle is his approach, which is he's fine to go to his back, and he's fine to take a bunch of shots and a bunch of punches. He's going for the submission. I feel like there's maybe a little bit something different he could do in his strategy to take less punishment and give himself more opportunities to throw up the submission. But I'm picking Paul Craig on this one.
Yeah. What are the odds on this?
Sorry. Paul Craig coming in as a plus 160 underdog. Johnny Walker negative 190 favorite. So that's what I'm saying. It's not crazy odds in favor of Walker. So Paul Craig being the slight underdog, but I'm going to be putting a bet on him.
Do you think it's going to play a big factor that Walker just fought in September and Paul Craig hasn't fought since July?
I think we've talked about how much activity matters, and that it's usually better. I feel like the thought is that staying active 2 to 3 fights per year is important versus like 1 fight a year. But this may be a case where Paul Craig, he's 35 years old, maybe being older, maybe having a little bit more time in between the fights, having that slower recovery as he gets older might be beneficial to him. So I think it all is going to depend on what Paul Craig's been doing in the in his fight camp, and also hopefully before his fight camp. I imagine he's probably training every day. So if he's keeping in good shape and disciplined, and then it might not play too big of a factor.
Yeah, and it looks like Walker is still training with SBG, Conor McGregor's team, John Kavanagh. So it'll be interesting to see what they've been able to work on him with improving. Definitely last fight, against Ion Cutelaba, like he had to endure, some strikes. And I don't know, from what I've seen from Paul Craig, he's not that kind of striker that Cutelaba was. He's definitely a better grappler. Definitely strong, compact. I definitely want to see, kind of, hopefully this gives us glimmers of what that team's been up to for, SBG Ireland, as they prepare for Conor to hopefully return soon,
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, can Johnny Walker get himself to that next level with this team? Because if he racks up another loss here, that'll be, 5 losses out of his last 7 fights. He's got to be getting worried about his contract at that point. So, so wait, what was your pick? Are you picking Walker?
Paul Craig.
Craig. Okay. All right, we're both picking the underdog on the first fight of the main card. Next up, we've got Lauren Murphy against Jessica Andrade. Murphy coming in as a plus 380 underdog. Andrade negative 500 favorite. And go ahead and kick us off with your analysis on this one, Frank.
I was definitely impressed with Lauren Murphy's last fight. She fought Miesha Tate on her comeback. I can definitely say that was probably a fight where we can agree that it was probably Miesha's, comeback fight, and it was a good win. It wasn't one that I was very excited to watch. I thought Miesha would have come back a little stronger, but Murphy did what she had to do to win unanimously. She hasn't lost to that many people. She's got 1 loss in the last since 2018, and that was to Shevchenko, whereas Andrade has just been fighting people left and right, and winning or losing, and going out, all out. And yeah, I think to me is going to be an easy pick. I think, I'm not gonna lie, Andrade is an amazing fighter, championship level, has been a champion. Will, if things fall her way, will be champion again. I don't see Lauren Murphy being able to hang with the aggressiveness, the skill, like on the ground, the striking. Andrade by a long shot. That's just me. And the odds makers, are kind of citing that way as well. Andrade is just amazing. She's one of those old school Brazilian fighters that you're just like, it's just a pit bull. She just goes out there, fights, win or lose. You don't expect it to go to the distance, and I don't expect it to go distance. She's worked her butt off to become one of the best in the world, and was the best in the world at one time, and I see her getting that back at one point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, and Josh has got that power in the stand-up, but she also has almost as many subs as she does KOs. So she's also got a good submission game, and decisions actually are, even though slightly less, still close to the sub and KO percentage. So she can go the distance. Typically with the power fighters, one of the things you'd be worried about is conditioning. But I think she's proven, she can last 3 rounds. Every power striker obviously is going to look not as good in the last round as in the first round. But she's a well-rounded fighter, and like you said, she's already been a champion. She's been fighting the best. I mean, Laura Murphy has been fighting good competition also. But I agree with the odds. It's -500 for a reason. I'd be picking Andrade. I don't really see. I think the only way Lauren Murphy is going to win is if she's able to catch her in some submission. Maybe she's able to force some scrambles or something, do something on the ground, end up in a good position and get us up. Even though Lauren Murphy, is not likely to sub based on her stats. She's not a submission fighter. She's more of a striker, according to just looking at the stats of what she does in her fights. So I'm picking Andrade. You're picking Andrade. No underdog pick on that card. The next one, though, it's the exact same odds stack up with Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns coming in as a -500 favorite. Neil Magny +380 underdog. On this one, though, I feel like it's not as quite clear cut, just because obviously Gilbert Burns is an amazing fighter, but I feel like Neil Magny has more ways to win than Laura Murphy. And I feel like Neil Magny's somebody who has been underestimated in a lot of his fights. So even though I think it may still favor Gilbert Burns, maybe not as much as what the odds suggest. So I feel like Magny's going to outperform what the odds makers are predicting. That's not to say that he's necessarily going to win, but I feel like he'll beat people's expectations. I feel like that's kind of fits in with Neil Magny. What are your thoughts on that one?
Neil Magny, I think, is getting pretty close to getting up there and eventually earning a title shot. He's just a durable fighter that is coming well-rounded now, more and more every fight. When he's fighting, I don't want to say he's like boring, but he's not a fighter that I'm like, he's gonna come out with a crazy submission, he's gonna come out with a crazy knockout. He just stands there and is outlasting people. And then his last fight against Daniel Rodriguez, he was able to submit him, and he's busy as hell. He fought 3 times in 2022. Burns just fought in his loss to Khamzat in April, and that was I think, to me, that was a fight of the year, because no one expected him to hang with Khamzat, to drop him, to put him in any danger, and made him look human. And I think that's one thing that as Khamzat's always trying to throw his name in the ring for every title fight out there, like he's just being like, give me a title shot. No, dude, like I'd rather see you rematch Burns. And I think Burns with this can remain at the top and kind of hope to shake it up, because they just announced that for sure we have the welterweight title rematch in London with Edwards versus Usman. I want to see Burns be able to get a rematch to one of them. And I love Usman, but it's been nice having somebody else at the top. He was so dominant, and he was winning that fight up until that kick, like 100%. And I want to see these guys, just keep, even if they're losing, like just swinging Hail Marys. And that's what I feel Burns and Edwards do. And nothing against Usman. Great fighter. He's going to be considered like one of the top of all time. But with that being said, with styles, I'm going to go with Burns on this one. I like Magny, but again, he's just a fighter that outlasts, and he's very skilled, well-rounded. It's just, I don't want to see another boring fighter at the top. Like, not to say he's boring to me. I'll say that, but he might not be boring to other people. But yeah, Burns, this one, hopefully it's, a finish of some sort.
Yeah, I think that the part with Magny, his style is that, like you mentioned, he does have pretty good output, but it's kind of like Colby Covington, where he's kind of relying more on the volume and the pressure, not really necessarily looking for the knockout. The interesting thing about Gilbert Burns, even though he's coming off a loss, that fight against Khamzat, I believe got him, I don't know what the award was, like UFC President's Award or something. I don't know. Dana White chooses whoever he gives these awards to or something. But gave Khamzat and Gilbert Burns the fight of the year in 2022 for that fight. So I feel like even though it's a loss for Gilbert Burns, everybody loved the fight, and it was super competitive. He got knockdowns. You could have said he was seconds away from finishing Khamzat during that fight a few different times, and the same thing in reverse. So I'm not sure if that loss will have the same impact, mentally on a guy that a loss typically would. And yeah, in terms of activity, 2 fights in 2021 for Burns, one in April 2022. Whereas Magny's been quite a bit more active. 3 fights in 2022, 2 in 2021. Both these guys are about the same age. I don't feel like there's much of a advantage in terms of age, and I'd say even experience. Even though I think Neil has more. Yeah, he definitely has more fights in the UFC, and has been around for a bit longer. It's not much longer than Gilbert Burns. Even though Neil's racked up more fights in that time, I think Gilbert Burns started like a year after Neil Magny. So the guys are both longtime veterans, going back to 2013, 2014. And so you're picking Gilbert Burns. I would pick Gilbert Burns. I feel like if you're placing an individual bet, there might be some value on that plus 380 for Neil Magny. Maybe he takes it to a decision, and if it goes to a decision, I feel like Neil's a little bit smarter with that strategy than Gilbert, whereas Gilbert, being more of a powerful guy, is going to be looking for that knockout. We'll see. So Gilbert's probably going to win. Might be some value on Neil Magny is my thought here. Next. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and Magny is massive, dude. He's 6'3". Like, how does he make?
And Gilbert Burns 5'10". Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh man.
So if he can stay on the outside, which we've seen him do in some fights, I'd say it. I feel like sometimes Neil does use his reach advantage and can stay on the outside. Other fights, I feel like that hasn't been the case. Like, he'll do dirty boxing up against the cage and things like that. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. If he stays on the outside and Gilbert Burns can't touch him because he's too slow, then that might be a good strategy to take. But
yeah, and I think Burns, with having fought Khamzat, has fought somebody of that height, that range, that lanky style. I don't know if there's that many short, middleweights. So that might be a interesting play in height right there.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that plays out. And let's see. Oh, yes. So Davis and Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, the quadrilogy fight, which, I feel like you don't ever get to say or get to see, especially in the UFC. It's like trilogy after trilogy, you're done. The crazy thing about this is, like, these guys, not only is it the quadrilogy, but they fought each other in their past 3 fights. So I don't know if that's ever happened with the trilogy where 2 guys just fight each other 3 times in a row. I haven't checked, but I've got to be pretty certain that there's never been 4 guys fought each other, and definitely no 2 guys have fought each other 4 times in a row for the belt, which is what they're going to be doing again here. So this is absolutely crazy, but I think it makes sense because each fight I've enjoyed watching. I feel like it's been entertaining. It's been competitive. So I'm not against the fight at all, but it's just kind of crazy that we're here, that these, where are the other people in the division who are, going to put up a, throw their hat in the ring and prove that they can be competitive against either one of these guys. I feel like these are the 2 best guys. I kind of feel like it's Colby Covington and Usman. Like
Usman, yeah.
Usman's just been a little bit better than Colby, but no one's even close to Colby, other than Usman. And I feel like we're probably in the same boat here with Figueiredo and Moreno. In terms of who's going to win, I can't remember if I said the odds. Odds are pretty close on this one. Figueiredo actually coming in as a plus 150, 115 underdog. Moreno coming as a negative 135 favorite. As far as the record goes, remember the first fight was a draw. Second fight, Figueiredo lost to Moreno, and the third fight, Figueiredo won. So Figueiredo won the last fight, but he's still coming in as an underdog in this match. What does that tell you? What do you think when Figueiredo won the last fight? They're even on the win-loss. What are your thoughts there?
All those fights were amazing to watch. I think anyone could watch them all and like disagree with the outcome every single time. I think for me, Moreno's win over Kai Kara-France, I did not expect him to finish him. I did not expect him to break him down like he did. With the body kick to drop him, like that was. I thought up until that point it was super close, and I was like, Kai Kara-France is gonna end up fighting for a title. Like, wow, that's great. That camp has worked their butt off. And then that kick landed, and it was just so fast, so instant that it was just over. And I don't think anyone could debate like that. That was just one of the great finishes of the year. Davison, I think one thing that's going to be against him is it's been about a year since he fought. It's January 22nd, so tomorrow would be a year since he fought last. And so one thing I think that people like me are interested in is how Moreno's going to be doing without his corner. Brandon Moreno is connected with James Krause and that whole gambling investigation, and one of his training partners is now under investigation, been removed from the UFC roster. So not only is your leader going going down, he's going down. He's got to be going down. They're not just, but your teammates and those around you, that's got to be distracting in preparation for this. Especially since your coach has guided you to these really close results against this opponent. So that to me is I think that's another factor that I'm looking at specifically. What's his coaching going to be like in between rounds? What's his strategy going to be? Because as far as I know, anyone maintaining any communication with those people in that are going to be implicated as well. So you can't even get any sort of advice from your teammates or your coach. So
yeah, and who knows how many times Moreno's been asked to come in and answer questions, or has had to contact lawyers, or even if there's no evidence he's involved at all, they may. I'm sure they've got to be asking questions of everyone who was around Krause if they're doing this full investigation. That's a good point. And I completely forgot about the fight against Kai Kara-France. I said they fought each other their last 3 fights, but actually it was for Figueiredo. Brandon Moreno had that one additional fight in between with Kai Kara-France most recently. And, like all the fights, I feel like at this weight class was super exciting, fast pace. And another thing with both these guys is both these guys have proven they both have great stand-up. That they're both quite technical strikers. They both have amazing grappling. I feel like what's made some of these matches so exciting is not just standing up and just doing strikes, like the Holloway Cater fight. But it'll start in the stand up. They'll be duking it out for 2.5 minutes, and then they'll have a 2-minute grappling exchange where they're just reversal, just going back and forth, which just adds to the excitement. It's got to be, and it makes it that much more impressive in terms of being able to go into those later rounds, to have the conditioning to be able to do that. So I think the odds makers got it right that the odds are going to be close. I think it's interesting, again, with Figueiredo coming in as a plus 115 underdog, unless, like you said, there's more credit being given to Moreno because he got that win over Kai Kara-France. He's been more active. I'm not sure, how they arrive at that. And in terms of so did you give a pick yet?
No. I don't know. This is
you think the odds are it being close? It's a coin toss.
I hope it brings closure. We could watch these guys fight forever, but I hope it doesn't set a precedent. Besides Colby and Usman, I could watch those guys fight forever because I love watching Covington get dropped every single time. But he brings it out of Usman. I just want closure. Whatever it is, just I hope that we could move on and be never again. But
Yeah,
if there was a
here's
fight that it did go 4 fights, this is definitely a pick I'd have. So I'm gonna
yeah.
go with Figueiredo. Just end it, get it over
Okay.
with.
So here's my thought. Figueiredo's had trouble in the past making weight. He is getting older. He is 35. Moreno's 29. So when they're, the fights are this close, you look for any little edge or something, someone might have. I think, yeah, Moreno might be hurt from the distractions and things like that from the investigations going on. I feel like he's got age on his side. I feel like he doesn't struggle as much to make weight. So maybe that's a factor. I'm gonna pick Moreno on this one to win. I'll go against you on this one. So you're going with the underdog. I'll go with the favorite on this one. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm sure it'll be an exciting conclusion to this saga. For the main event, Glover Teixeira, Jamahal Hill. Teixeira coming as a +120 underdog. Hill -140 favorite. This is such a crazy fight of how it came about when you think about, the last fight for the belt that ended in a draw. And it seems like Dana and the crew were just like, screw this, because they were fighting for the vacant title, so they can't put a belt on anyone. I feel like they were just pissed and like, screw you guys, you're not getting your rematch, we're doing something else faster. And then they just like threw this together in like 2 seconds after the previous title fight came to a draw. So it's weird, not the normal circumstances you see for the title fight. Neither were the circumstances for the last one, Prochaska pulling out and vacating the belt voluntarily not long after he had won it. So these guys are fighting for the vacant belt. And this makes it extra weird is Teixeira's last fight was for the belt and he lost. And Hill coming off of 3 wins, it makes sense that Hill would be fighting for the title. Normally Teixeira wouldn't be the guy fighting for the title, but since they already had their top 2 guys, that's what they're doing now. So interesting setup. I feel like Jamahal Hill being the younger guy, at 31, Teixeira 43. Teixeira's already proven that he's beat the odds in terms of age, becoming champion at age 42 in that crazy fight against Jan. But that being said, I feel like Teixeira's got to be getting near the end of his career. Hill, he's more on that upswing. I feel like Jamahal Hill's going to win this one by KO. If you look at his last 5 fights, they have all ended KO. He's won 4 of the times, lost 1, but all the wins were by KO. And Teixeira, he's shown that he can take some punches, and if he gets a hold of you, he's really going to put you in trouble. But I feel like Jamahal Hill is going to be aware of that. He's going to have been prepped for it. He seems to have fairly decent grappling defense. The question is it good enough to keep Glover's hands off of him so that he can throw those punches that he needs to get the knockout or not? That's what I feel like it's going to come down to. What do you think?
I'm always going to root for Glover. He's been around for so long. That loss to Jiri, it was 50-50 to that point. Like, it was just, I'm dropping you, you drop me, we'll grapple. Like, I'm mount you, you're going to mount me. Like, it was such an amazing fight. And with Jiri being out and like looks like he's recovering well and he's all healthy from his shoulder surgery, I'm glad that in a way they just found another way to give Glover a shot at redemption or a rematch, because definitely I don't know what they are gonna do going forward with this, who's next, or hopefully Jiri can recover, because it seems like that recovery is going to be long. But Glover has shown he can take a punch, has shown he can recover and drop somebody back. Jamahal Hill, we have yet to see that from him, but he's gone against big guys who are strikers, Johnny Walker, Thiago Santos, and knock them out. And I think that's going to make for a great matchup. It's definitely youth versus experience coming into this. Glover has just survived all kinds of fights and all kinds of damage, and just Jamal's activity level. He fought twice last year, and Glover just fought the one. But it was a fight that probably put more years somehow on his already old body. Like he definitely needed that full time to recover. and I want to see him be able to hang and to me, do the upset. I'm going for Glover just based on age, but realistically, Jamahal Hill, like it's his fight to lose for sure.
Yeah, like you said, this is like youth versus experience, and it's also striker versus grappler. Also part of a, could be a redemption story. Yeah, all kinds of different angles on this one. I think the odds makers are right that it could easily go either way, and I also agree that they're slightly favoring Jamahal Hill. So I'm going to be picking Hill on this one, even though in my heart I'll be rooting for Teixeira. Like you said, him being 43, he's nearing the end of his career. Hill, if he loses this fight, he'll have other fights. He's won his last 3. He could easily come back and get another shot for the title in his career. So I'm picking Hill to win on this one. It'll be interesting. I think all these fights on the main card are going to be good ones. Anything else on the card interest you that you want to talk about, Fern?
Yeah, I saw a couple of fights on the prelims and early prelims. Mauricio Shogun Hua, Terrence McKinney is fighting on the undercard. It looks like it's going to be Mauricio Shogun Hua's retirement. RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez is fighting. I think ending out the prelims with those 2 fights with Gregory Rodriguez and Shogun Hua is going to be crazy. I'm excited if you haven't ever watched a fight when they're fighting in Brazil. That's also why I want Glover to win, because if he wins, that place is going to go nuts, and it's going to be so loud the whole night. I love the soccer chants. The only other place that beats it or rivals it is like anywhere in Europe, whether it be Ireland or UK. Like I'm excited for that energy that those fans bring, and yeah, definitely going to be watching every single fight and hoping there's just knockout after knockout.
Yeah, well, so I think one of the fights to watch on the early prelims is going to be the fight with Terrence McKinney.
Yeah.
If you look at the on this, they're like razor thin, and McKinney has had some, interesting fights in terms of his wins by submission. I think he had that. Yeah, he had that 7-second. I don't know if you recall. I believe we talked about it a couple years or so ago. Was his fight against Frivola, where he won in 7 seconds. I don't know if you remember that knockout, but like he just came out and then it was like one punch and he was done. And that kind of put McKinney on, my radar. I think everyone's radar. So I think that'll be a great fight on the early prelims to look out for. Other than that, you got anything else to mention, Firm? We need to start saying at the beginning of the stream, hit the subscribe button.
Hit the like, subscribe. We're almost at our year anniversary. Seeing what we got cooking up this next year. Gonna definitely try to make it to more fights. Still follow Zeke Flores. Looks like he's still kind of in training mode, looking to fight this next month. Other than that, appreciate the support. Tell a friend, tell other people. It's not okay that more people know us internationally than in my hometown. No. Everywhere I go, I'm like, they know me in Jamaica, but not here. I'm under my breath.
All right, awesome. Man. I will catch you later.
Awesome. See you, everyone.